chilling true story. Grandma shocked by her father-in-law's abuse after husband's death. Evelyn stood in the dim light of her daughter's room, the silence pressing down on her like a heavy blanket. Just weeks ago, her husband had been alive, full of laughter and plans for their future. Now, the air was thick with loss, and her heart felt like a stone in her chest. It wasn't just grief that tangled her thoughts. It was the responsibility of raising Lily alone. A 5-year-old with wide, innocent eyes that looked up at her, full of questions she didn't have the answers to. Tucked away in one corner of the house was the makeshift shrine to her husband. A framed photo, a flickering candle, and a bouquet of wilting flowers, all reminders of the life that had slipped away too soon. It was here, among the remnants of their shared past, that she found the diary. Weathered and unassuming, it lay hidden beneath a pile of his old clothes. Curiosity piqued, she opened its pages, and her breath caught in her throat. As she read, the words swirled around her like a tempest. Those private thoughts belonged to Arthur, her husband's father, a man she had always regarded as a loving grandfather. But there, inked in shaky handwriting, were chilling confessions of control and manipulation, a hidden truth about emotional and physical abuse. Evelyn's skin crawled as she read about the fear he instilled in her husband, shaping him into a man who wore a mask of kindness to hide the terror of his childhood. Evelyn felt the weight of betrayal heavy in her gut. Arthur had been a constant presence in their life, his criticisms cloaked in concern, but now she wondered how much of that caring facade was genuine. An uneasiness began to creep into her home. When Arthur, now a grieving grandfather, moved in with them after the funeral, the atmosphere turned electric. Every laugh from Lily felt like a betrayal of her husband's memory, and every smile from Arthur frayed her nerves. With every passing day, Evelyn kept the diary close, her secret weapon against the dark storm brewing inside her. Home. But how could she confront Arthur? What if exposing him drove a wedge between her and Lily? Each time Lily begged to spend time with her grandfather, Evelyn's heart sank. How could she allow that man near her child? Was loyalty to her late husband more important than protecting their daughter? Just when Evelyn thought she was piecing together a plan to uncover Arthur's true nature, a knock came at the door. A delivery with no return address. Inside was a box filled with more of her husband's hidden past. Her fingers trembled as she lifted the lid, uncovering more letters, more dark secrets than she could have imagined. As she stared into the shadows of her own home, the walls felt like they were closing in. How could she fight a monster that wore a grandfather's smile? The chilling reality: Arthur wasn't just a relative. He was a menace hiding in plain sight. Evelyn took a deep breath, determination flooding her veins. She would protect Lily, no matter the cost. But the deeper she dug, the more questions emerged, and she knew she had to prepare for a battle, not just for her family's safety, but for the truth itself. Hey, before we continue with this incredible story, I need to give you an important warning. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subscriptions without notice. Just take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content coming up. And since you're here, smash that like button because it really helps me with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who is part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact. Evelyn stood frozen, the box before her, feeling like a heavy stone on her chest. She had thought discovering her husband's past would offer clarity, but as she glanced at the letters, dread crawled up her spine. Each envelope was sealed tight, whispering of a reality she wasn't ready to face. Her heart raced as she opened the first letter, the familiar handwriting, a script she'd seen countless times, greeting her like an unwelcome ghost. Words poured out like a flood, revealing a dark narrative entwining her husband's childhood with Arthur's cruelty. But then, amidst the confessions, something jolted her senses. A name. Not Arthur, but another man. David. The name twisted like a knife in her gut. Who was David? A friend? A cousin? Her fingers trembled as she turned the page, desperate for answers. The more she read, the more her world began to unravel. David was not just a name. He was a key player in the very torment that shaped her husband. The letters spoke of a pact, a shared darkness, and an unholy bond that bound them in a sinister way. Then came a single line that felt like ice running through her veins. We had to do what he said. Her mind whirled. What did that mean? Suddenly, the quiet of her home felt charged, almost electric. A storm of shattered memories and haunting imagery flooded her mind, filling in the gaps she never knew existed. She stumbled back, dropping the letters. The sound echoed in the otherwise silent room. It felt as if the walls were closing in, suffocating in their intimacy. Just then, a giggle floated down the hallway. Lily. Her innocent laughter clashed violently with the growing darkness in Evelyn's heart. Evelyn couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Had Arthur known about David? Was he still manipulating things from the shadows? The shrill cry of the doorbell cut through her spiraling thoughts. Heart pounding, she reluctantly opened the door, and there stood a woman she didn't recognize, her face pale, eyes shadowed with fear. Evelyn? The woman's voice trembled. I need to talk to you. It's about David and Arthur. A chill swept through Evelyn. Who was this woman? Why was she looking for her? Who are you? Evelyn managed, her voice shaky, her hands clenching tight around the doorframe. I'm Sarah, the woman hurried to explain, glancing over her shoulder as if expecting shadows to emerge. David's sister. I know about your husband. And what Arthur did. Evelyn felt the world tilt. The name hung thick in the air, twisting her reality further. What do you mean? I have proof. Proof that it didn't end with your husband. Arthur, he continued using David, and now he's after Lily. You need to protect her. Evelyn's breaths quickened, panic clawing at her insides. Lily was the light in her dark days, the one pure thing left in this haunting mess. But a berry fear surged. Was Arthur still a menace? Had her protector transformed into a predator? Before she could respond, a sudden crash erupted from inside the house. The sound was deafening, slamming against her like a rogue wave. Evelyn's heart raced as dread wrapped around her. Had Arthur found out? Was the monster now unleashed? Desperate, she pulled on Sarah's arm. Come inside. But as they stepped through the threshold, Evelyn's instincts screamed. Something was wrong. Very wrong. With aching clarity, Evelyn realized the sinister truth. This was just the beginning. With every secret unveiled, the weight of impending disaster loomed larger. The questions clawed at her mind, relentless. Could she truly protect Lily? Who could she trust now? Just then, another loud bang echoed through the house, sending them both jumping. The darkness wasn't done. It was just starting to play its game. And with every heartbeat, it flicked the lights off, one by one. The loud bang echoed through the hallway like a gunshot. Fracturing the fragile silence, Evelyn's heart raced as she gripped Sarah's arm. Panic coursing through her like a wild river. "What was that?" she whispered, voice trembling. Sweat prickled on her brow, and every instinct screamed danger. A second loud noise rippled behind them, a crash from the living room. The sound of glass shattering, followed by a low, menacing chuckle. It was Arthur. Panic twisted Evelyn's gut. What was happening? Had he come for them? "Inside," she urged, pulling Sarah closer as they dashed into the room. The walls felt like they were pressing in, the air thick with dread. Evelyn's mind raced. Should they barricade themselves in? But where was Lily? "Lily!" Evelyn's voice cut through the darkness. She tried to swallow the lump in her throat, fear wrapping around her like a snake. No response. Just silence. "Evelyn," Sarah said, her face pale, eyes darting around like a deer in headlights. "We need to find her, now." They moved through the dimly lit hallway, shadows dancing along the walls. Fear clawed at her throat, whispering worst-case scenarios. "Where is she?" The question burned in the air, heavy and suffocating. Just then, they heard it. A giggle, sweet and innocent, echoing from the kitchen. Relief flooded Evelyn momentarily, but her instincts screamed at her still. That sound felt out of place now. So wrong in the midst of this chaos. They burst into the kitchen, and Evelyn froze. Time stilled as she took in the sight before her. Lily sat on the floor, playing with blocks, completely oblivious to the horror unfolding. But behind her, Arthur loomed, standing stiff and still, a twisted smile lighting his face. "Look, Evelyn! I'm building a castle!" Lily's eyes sparkled, bright as sunbeams. The chill in Evelyn's chest deepened. Arthur turned, and there was something in his eyes. Something dark. Something unsettling. "Isn't it wonderful?" he said, his voice dripping with a false sweetness that sent shivers down her spine. The laughter rose in pitch, sounding grating now. The warmth she once felt around the man faded completely. "Lily, honey, come here." Evelyn's voice was tight, barely a whisper. But Lily only giggled, reaching. For another block, completely engrossed, Evelyn stepped forward, adrenaline pumping. But then it happened. A grotesque noise erupted from Arthur's throat, a grating laugh like broken glass. "She's mine now, Evelyn. She deserves better than you." In that moment, everything shattered. Arthur's face twisted, revealing a horrific truth that locked Evelyn in place, frigid fear paralyzing her. What had she missed? What had she ignored? A sudden movement caught her eye. A flash of something, an imprint on the floor, an envelope directly beneath her feet. She bent down, trembling, fingers brushing against the paper. Before she could register what it was, the door burst open, revealing two figures, men in dark suits, police, their faces stern and serious. Evelyn Westwick, one of them called, urgency lacing his tone. The shock of their arrival struck like lightning, illuminating the darkness for a moment. "Where is she?" one shouted, scanning the room. Evelyn's heart pounded louder. What? What do you mean? Who?" It felt like the ground had crumbled beneath her, leaving her teetering on the edge. David's sister reported suspicious activity. "We need to talk to you about Arthur." Evelyn felt the air thicken. The revelation swept through her like ice water. "David?" Suddenly, the pieces of her husband's past slammed together. It was no accident. This had all been planned. She looked to Arthur, who wore an expression that twisted every secret into darkness. Everything she thought she knew began to unravel. "Evelyn," Arthur hissed, malice coating the words. "They're not here to help you. The weight of the moment crashed down, and a chilling question echoed in her mind. What was the connection, really? What was happening? And in that instant, Evelyn couldn't shake the fear that this was only the beginning. A storm was brewing, one that promised far worse than she could imagine. Evelyn stood frozen, the weight of disbelief pressing down on her. The police officers, words hung in the air, thick and suffocating. She glanced back at Arthur, whose face had darkened with a storm of rage and fear. The twisted smile from moments ago was gone, replaced by something far more dangerous. "Get out," Arthur's voice cracked like thunder, a primal roar that echoed through the kitchen. "You're ruining everything!" Evelyn felt the pull of the officer's presence. They were there to help, but she knew deep down Arthur was a snake, ready to strike. The tension crackled like live wires, charged and ready to explode. "Ma'am, we need to get your daughter and leave," one of the officers insisted, stepping closer, eyes darting to the corner of the kitchen where Lily still played. Suddenly, Arthur lunged forward, catching Evelyn off guard. His hands, once soft and comforting, now felt like iron around her wrist, digging in with a strength that sent waves of panic coursing through her. "Please, you don't want to do this." She could barely force the words out, fear turning her voice into a whisper. Lily looked up, confusion swirling in her innocent eyes. "Lily, come here!" The urgency in the officer's tone cut through the chaos like a knife. But Evelyn couldn't move. She was caught, trapped in a nightmare. Without warning, Arthur spun her around, pulling her closer, his breath hot against her ear. "You think you can hide the truth? You have no idea what you're dealing with." Evelyn's heart raced as she met his gaze. Searching for the loving grandfather she once knew, but all she found was a chilling void. Just outside the door, more police cars rolled in, their lights flashing like a beacon of hope against a beacon. Backdrop of growing darkness. Then, as if the world had cracked open, a loud crash erupted from the other side of the house, something heavy colliding with the wall. The ground shook beneath her feet as the tension snapped. "Stay with Lily," one officer shouted, dashing toward the source of the sound. In that moment, Evelyn's instincts took over. "Lily, come!" she cried, pulling her daughter to her as they backed away from Arthur's tightening grip. But it was too late. The door burst open, revealing a figure that made Evelyn's blood run cold. "David!" she gasped, recognizing the man from the letters, the dark past she had only begun to unravel. How was he here? David stood in the doorway. But he wasn't the victim she had pictured. His eyes glinted with a haunting familiarity, a twisted resemblance to Arthur that sent a shiver down her spine. "You really didn't think it was over, did you?" he said, a smirk spreading across his face. "What do you mean?" Bewilderment flooded her mind. The names tangled together, leaving her breathless. Arthur and David. What were they planning? "Arthur and I, we share a legacy, one that you and Lily are now part of," David sneered, stepping closer. "It's time for you to understand what your husband tried to bury." Evelyn's heart pounded against her ribs, panic rising like bile. "What are you saying?" But as the words left her mouth, a loud crack filled the room, echoing her spiraling thoughts. The lights flickered above them, plunging the kitchen into darkness. Then, as if catching its breath, the power surged back, revealing a horrifying scene. Arthur lunged forward, his face twisted with fury. But David was there, dark and unsettling, a puppet master in control. "You're in over your head, Evelyn. You don't know what's at stake." Everything she thought she knew shattered like glass. The walls pressed in, closing around her as the weight of secrets threatened to crush her. Arthur was not just a grieving grandfather. David was not just a name in a diary. They were tied together in a web of darkness, and Lily's innocence teetered on the edge. What had she been blind to? And as the shadows danced around them, one question screamed louder than the rest. Who could she trust? Evelyn stood frozen, the weight of disbelief pressing down on her. The police officer's words hung in the air, thick and suffocating. She glanced back at Arthur, whose face had darkened with a storm of rage and fear. The twisted smile from moments ago was gone, replaced by something far more dangerous. "Get out!" Arthur's voice cracked like thunder, a primal roar that echoed through the kitchen. "You're ruining everything!" Evelyn felt the pull of the officer's presence. They were there to help, but she knew deep down Arthur was a snake, ready to strike. The tension crackled like live wires, charged and ready to explode. "Ma'am, we need to get your daughter and leave," one of the officers insisted, stepping closer, eyes darting to the corner of the kitchen where Lily still played. Suddenly, Arthur lunged forward, catching Evelyn off guard. His hands, once soft and comforting, now felt like iron around her wrist, digging in with a strength that sent waves of panic coursing through her. "Please, you don't want to do this." She could barely force the words out, fear turning her voice into a whisper. Lily looked up, confusion swirling in her innocent eyes. "Lily, come here!" The urgency in the officer's tone cut through the chaos like a knife, but Evelyn couldn't move. She was caught, trapped in a nightmare. Without warning, Arthur spun her around, pulling her closer, his breath hot against her ear. "You think you can hide the truth? You have no idea what you're dealing with." Evelyn felt her heart race as she met his gaze, searching for the loving grandfather she once knew. But all she found was a chilling void. Just outside the door, more police cars rolled in, their lights flashing like a beacon of hope against a backdrop of growing darkness. Then, like a scene from a horror movie, a loud crash erupted from the other side of the house, something heavy colliding with the wall. The ground shook beneath her feet as the tension snapped. "Stay with Lily!" one officer shouted, dashing toward the source of the sound. Evelyn's instincts took over. "Lily, come!" she cried, pulling her daughter to her as they backed away from Arthur's tightening grip. But it was too late. The door burst open, revealing a figure that made Evelyn's blood run cold. "David!" she gasped, recognizing the man from the letters, the dark past she had only begun to unravel. How was he here? David stood in the doorway, but he wasn't the victim she had pictured. His eyes glinted with a haunting familiarity, a twisted resemblance to Arthur that sent a shiver down her spine. "You really didn't think it was over, did you?" he said, a smirk spreading across his face. "What do you mean?" Bewilderment flooded her mind. The names tangled together, leaving her breathless. Arthur and David. What were they planning? "Arthur and I, we share a legacy, one that you and Lily are now part of," David sneered, stepping closer. "It's time for you to understand what your husband tried to bury." Evelyn's heart pounded against her ribs, panic rising like bile. "What are you saying?" But as the words left her mouth, a loud crack filled the room, echoing her spiraling thoughts. The lights flickered above them, plunging the kitchen into darkness. Then, as if catching its breath, the power surged back. Arthur lunged forward, but David stopped him, holding up a hand. "Wait, we need to." "Show her." Evelyn squinted, trying to see, trying to make sense of what was happening. Before her eyes, David reached into his pocket, pulling out a small device. It glimmered under the flickering lights, like a key. "A key for what?" "Evelyn," David said, voice low, "the truth about your husband is worse than you can imagine. But I can help you if you trust me." A sinking feeling twisted in her gut. "Trust you? Why would I do that?" David pressed a button on the device. In an instant, The walls trembled, and a hidden door swung open behind him, revealing a dark staircase spiraling down into the abyss. Because this goes deeper than you know, it wasn't just Arthur who hurt him. There are others, and they want Lily too. Evelyn's breath hitched. Others? The secret spun around her like a whirlwind. Just when she thought she could protect her daughter, new layers of darkness crept in, unveiling a reality she had never prepared for. She clutched Lily to her chest, heart racing, uncertain of who to trust. Evelyn, you have to come with me. David's voice sliced through her thoughts, urgency lacing every word. You need to understand the danger. They'll come for you, for her. As she stood there, confusion gripping her, Evelyn knew one thing for certain. The moment she stepped into that darkened passage, everything would change. And as the shadows loomed larger, one terrifying question echoed through her mind. What had she truly married into? Evelyn's heart raced in her chest as she stared into David's eyes. The darkness loomed around her like a storm cloud ready to burst. She felt the wake of the unknown pressing down, a crushing voice that threatened to pull her under. Evelyn, David said again, urgency clawing at his voice. You need to understand this. Arthur and I. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from the hallway, a sound that shattered the moment. Evelyn turned, anxiety flooding her. What now? Lily, she yelled, her voice panicked as dread washed over her. Stay with me. David grabbed her wrist, but the intensity in Evelyn's gaze was too strong. She needed to find her daughter. She pulled free, her instincts screaming as she darted towards the kitchen. What greeted her stopped her dead in her tracks. The officers, who were supposed to protect them, were sprawled on the floor, lifeless. Blood pooled around them, dark and thick, soaking into the tiles. Horror gripped her, a vice tightening around her throat. Mommy, Lily's voice rang out, sweet and innocent, but the fear in it cut through the air like glass. Evelyn's heart sank as she turned just in time to see Arthur snagging Lily's wrist. Strong and menacing, he pulled her towards the hidden staircase. Arthur, Evelyn screamed, terror blending with fury. Let her go! My precious Lily, he said. His smile split from ear to ear, revealing something monstrous. She deserves to know the truth just like you did. Evelyn launched herself at him, every muscle in her body locked on protecting her daughter. But then David stepped in, blocking her way. Evelyn, don't! He shouted, desperation in his eyes. You don't understand. But she had to understand. She couldn't think, only act. Lily! She fought against David, but he didn't waver, his grip firm. Suddenly, the lights flickered again, plunging them into darkness. Evelyn's breath hitched as she heard a commotion from the shadows, crashing footsteps, shouts. In the confusion, Arthur took advantage, dragging Lily down the hidden staircase, his sinister laughter echoing behind him. You can't protect her, Evelyn. Mommy! Lily's cry was choked with fear. Evelyn felt a surge of energy building inside her. Don't you dare! Come back! She hurled herself towards the stairs. But before she could reach them, the lights surged back on, blinding her for a moment. When her vision cleared, a flicker of doubt caught her eye. David wasn't just standing there now. He was looking at the staircase with a conflicted expression, one she couldn't place. What's happening? She gasped, chest tightening, pulse racing. What are you hiding? David turned, his face pale. Evelyn, it's not what you think. But before he could finish, the wall beside them erupted. Brick and plaster exploded, revealing a hidden room bathed in an eerie light. Evelyn stumbled back, eyes wide. Inside were photos, horrifying images of her husband, twisted and raw. What is this? She gasped, moving closer. Panic rushed through her. The photos showed her husband in unthinkable situations, horrors from his past. But that wasn't all. There were images of Lily, too. "No!" she shrieked. "That can't be right!" But it was right. Her heart sank even deeper as the truth settled in like a heavy stone. David stepped closer, face shadowed, voice pleading. "I tried to protect him, Evelyn. We were all trapped in Arthur's web." She felt the world spinning, her reality cracking apart. "Trapped? How? What does any of this mean?" David's voice shook as he answered. "You need to see it all. You think you know Arthur? You don't." Just then, the power flickered again, and the room was engulfed in a thick darkness. Evelyn felt a sudden cold rush from behind her. She turned to find Arthur standing at the edge of the darkened staircase, Lily in his grasp, but curled against him as though she was safe. Then came Arthur's voice, calm and sinister. "You were never meant to be part of this, Evelyn. But now that you are, it's too late." A sharp pain shot through Evelyn's heart at the realization. If David was trapped, then how could she believe he was telling the truth? A chilling thought struck her. What if David was just as entwined in Arthur's darkness as her husband had been? The final rumble of uncertainty washed over her as the shadows deepened around them. Would she lose Lily to the darkness that swallowed her husband? Who was the real monster? And just as she made her decision to surge forward, a blinding flash pierced the darkness. A gunshot rang out, shattering the moment. The gunshot rang out, a deafening crack that shattered the escalating tension. Time froze. Evelyn's heart stopped. She whirled around to find David falling to the floor, eyes wide, hand clutching his chest. No, no, no. Panic surged within her, drowning out reason. Not him. Not now. "No!" she screamed, rushing toward him. "David!" But as she stumbled to his side, dread clawed at her. A trail of crimson seeped from beneath his fingers, pooling on the floor. He gasped, trying to speak, but the air escaped his lips like a balloon losing its breath. "Help! Someone!" she shouted, her voice cracking with terror. Behind her, Arthur stood, eyes dark with triumph, a gun still smoking in his hand. "Why'd you do that?" Evelyn spun around, anger igniting within her. "You shot him!" "He was going to tell you the truth," Arthur said, his tone cold, devoid of remorse. That's the problem with secrets. They find a way to spill. Evelyn's mind raced. The truths David sought to reveal? What was it? Manipulating everyone? Was he connected to more than just David? The air around her thickened, a suffocating fog of confusion and fear spiraling. Suddenly, another figure dashed through the doorway. A woman, familiar yet unfamiliar. Evelyn's breath caught as she recognized her. It was Sarah, David's sister, eyes wide and frantic. "What have you done?" she shrieked, rushing toward David. "Stop!" Arthur barked, raising the gun again. "Don't you dare!" Evelyn shouted, positioning herself in front of David's crumbling body, protecting him, her last shred of hope. But panic clawed at her insides. Would she really sacrifice herself for a man she barely knew? "Evelyn." David's voice was a rasp, weak but urgent. She leaned closer, praying for something, the slightest hope that he could pull through. "Stay with me. Help is coming." We were all part of it," David croaked, eyes fluttering. "The pact, it's bigger. You don't know about." A wrenching cough cut him off, blood staining his lips. "No, she couldn't lose him. What pact? David, please." But before he could continue, the room shook as another loud bang echoed through the space. This time, the explosion sent debris flying, splintered wood and dust raining down like confetti. Evelyn ducked reflexively. When she looked up, chaos erupted. "Run!" Sarah screamed, grabbing Evelyn's arm. "Where? What's happening?" The room spun around her, light and darkness dancing in a chaotic ballet. "Everyone's in danger," Sarah shouted, her eyes darting. To Arthur, who stood at the center with a crazed expression. "It was never just him. There are others, still out there." Evelyn's heart pounded. "Others?" Fear twisted her gut into knots. "What do you mean?" Suddenly, a figure, hidden in the shadows, emerged, and Evelyn's breath hitched. It was a familiar, horrifying sight. The silhouette of Arthur's wife, a woman she thought was long gone. "What's happening?" Evelyn gasped, horror coursing through her veins. "Everything, my dear," the shadowy figure replied, her voice smooth and chilling. "It's time to reveal the truth. Family bonds run deeper than you think, much deeper." The revelation struck like a thunderbolt, shaking Evelyn to her core. What family? What bonds? The secrets twisted around her, each one heavier than the last. "Let go of her!" Arthur shouted, his confusion morphing into rage. But Evelyn was too lost in the web of revelations. "Who are you?" Evelyn demanded, desperate for answers. "We are the keepers of our legacy," the woman said, stepping forward, a sinister smile gracing her lips. "And now, you're part of the family business, whether you like it or not." A horror deeper than the secrets bubbled to the surface as Evelyn realized this was not just about protecting Lily or David or even herself. The danger extended beyond the walls of their home, cloaked in shadows, masking a network she'd unknowingly walked into. "Step back," David gasped, his eyes pleading. A new fear gripped Evelyn. If everything was connected, then who was truly the enemy? As the darkness moved closer, the room thick with uncertainty and betrayal, one question pounded through her mind. Could she truly trust anyone? Evelyn stood there, her heart hammering in her chest, the darkness closing in around her. David lay gasping on the floor, blood pooling beneath him. Arthur's sinister smile faded, revealing a flicker of uncertainty. As Sarah rushed to David's side, Evelyn felt a sudden urge to run. But where could she go? The walls felt like they were closing in, suffocating her. "Get away from him!" she shouted at Arthur, her voice trembling. "You're a monster! You've lost everything!" Arthur's eyes narrowed, but just as he opened his mouth to retort, the air shifted. A chilling wind swept through the room, snuffing out the lights. For a heartbeat, they were all plunged into pitch blackness, the kind of darkness that seeped into your bones. Then a flash. A brilliant light surged, cutting through the gloom, illuminating the room. But it wasn't the flicker of the overhead lights returning. No, this was something different. A spotlight, piercingly bright and blinding, shone down from above, catching everyone off guard. "Stop!" a voice boomed, echoing around them like thunder. Evelyn squinted up into the light, mouth agape. A figure emerged, cloaked in shadows, but stepping into the light. It was a woman, strikingly familiar. "Mom?" Evelyn's voice trembled, disbelief flooding her mind. "What are you doing here?" "Evelyn, listen to me." The woman's voice was urgent, but there was a calmness that resonated deeply. "You need to understand everything. They've been waiting for you." "Who?" Evelyn felt her world skirting the edge of insanity. "What do you mean?" Then, with a dramatic flick of her wrist, the woman gestured towards David, who was struggling to breathe. "The truth, Evelyn. There's a reason all of this has happened. You're part of something far bigger. David's eyes widened in horror, a frantic look exchanging between him and the woman. No, you can't! But she cut him off, the desperation relentless. You have to know. Arthur isn't just your husband's father. He's your grandfather. A hush fell over the room, profound disbelief hanging in the air like a heavy fog. Evelyn's breath caught. What? How? You were never meant to find out. Not like this. But after your mother disappeared, the plan fell apart. The woman's gaze shifted to Arthur, piercing through him with a fierce intensity. You brought her into this world filled with darkness, Arthur. You couldn't keep it hidden forever. Evelyn's mind spun like a topsy-turvy ride. You're lying. That can't be true. It's the truth, her mother insisted, overlaid with anguish. We did what we could to protect you. We thought keeping your father's past from you would save you. She took a deep breath, glancing at David, who was now watching her, eyes wide with horror. But the pact is stronger than we thought. I didn't ask for this, Evelyn cried out. But pieces of the puzzle spun wildly, forming a picture that shattered her heart. You kept this from me? From my whole life? Evelyn, listen. Her mother stepped closer, desperation evident in her eyes. They want Lily. This is all about the legacy, the dark legacy. They won't stop until they control it. You need to trust me, Arthur snarled, fury swelling in his chest. You're a traitor. You're the one who abandoned her. None of this should have happened. And just like that, everything flipped. This wasn't just about David or Arthur. It was about her family, her mother, a woman she thought was lost. Get away from my family, Arthur thundered, raising the gun again. But Evelyn charged forward, pulling David's body closer. Just as bullets began to fly, time seemed to slow. In that moment, Evelyn's eyes darted back and forth between the chaos, the shadows and lights blending together. It wasn't just a battle for survival. It was a battle for truth. Everything changes now, she screamed, ready to fight as the lines between friend and foe blurred more than ever. But just as the air thickened with tension, the room erupted. A blinding explosion surged from the hidden staircase. Everything changed in an instant, and as Evelyn braced for the impact, one final thought echoed through her mind. Who could she truly trust now? Evelyn stood at the center of chaos, the tension thick and palpable. Her heart thudded in her chest as she faced David, lying bleeding on the floor. The revelation from her mother hung in the air, choking her with disbelief. Arthur's face twisted with rage and fear, while Sarah hurried to David's side. Evelyn, get back! He's dangerous, Arthur shouted, pressing the gun closer. The eerie calm in his voice was unnerving. She could feel the weight of decision pressing down on her. Should she flee, or should she fight? Just then, another explosion rocked the house, a deafening bang, sending dust and debris flying everywhere. It wasn't just a collapse. It felt like the very foundation of lies was crumbling. The bright light flickered once more, but this time it brought a sense of foreboding. More shadows emerged, spilling in through the gaping doorway. Get out of the way! A voice thundered, but it was too late. Suddenly, everything blurred. Evelyn's mind raced. The room spun as she saw a dark figure standing in the doorway, silhouetted against the light. No, not now! It was a voice she knew all too well, yet did not expect to hear. As the dust settled, Evelyn squinted. The figure stepped into the light, revealing a familiar face. It was her father. Dad? The word slipped from her lips, shaking with raw disbelief. But you said, enough, he barked, steel in his gaze, cutting through the confusion. We don't have time for explanations. They're coming. The shock of his presence rocked her. She hadn't seen him in years, had thought him lost to the shadows of Arthur's wrath. "You're supposed to be gone. You shouldn't be here. I was protecting you." His eyes softened for a fleeting moment, but then hardened again. "Now listen, Arthur's not just your grandfather. He's part of this dark family. So is David. David? Bloodline has ties to something you can't imagine." Evelyn felt ice froth in her veins. "You're lying! You promised you'd keep me safe." "You think you've been safe all this time?" He stepped closer, urgency in his voice. "They've been searching for you for decades, and it's only begun." Arthur growled, taking a step forward, gun still trained on her father. "You're a coward. You thought you could run? You can't hide from the truth." As tension thickened, an unexpected sound echoed. At first, it was nearly imperceptible, a low humming, like machinery stirring to life. Then, it crescendoed into a deafening roar. The ground beneath them shook, and the walls began to tremble. Pictures fell, debris rained down like confetti, and an otherworldly light poured from the hidden staircase. The chaos reached a fever pitch as the light flared brighter, engulfing the room. Evelyn shielded her eyes, heart racing, fear coiling tight in her chest. "Run!" Sarah shouted, but her voice was lost in the madness that surged around them. And then everything exploded into blinding white light. Evelyn stumbled, disoriented. When the brightness faded, she found herself alone, but not truly alone. She stood in a vast, unfamiliar space, a landscape where shadows played tricks on her eyes. "Where am I?" Her voice echoed in the emptiness, despair threading through her every syllable. "Welcome," a voice said, smooth and haunting. The words slithered through the air like smoke. "I've been waiting for you, Evelyn. There's so much to tell you." As the figure stepped out from the shadows, a sickening realization pooled in Evelyn's gut. It wasn't Arthur. It wasn't David. It was the woman from the photographs, the figure she'd seen in her husband's hidden past. Who are you?" The question fumbled out, the answer already tasting bitter on her tongue. "Your lineage holds more power than you understand," the woman said, stepping closer, a chilling smile spreading across her features. "And now it's time to embrace your true inheritance." Evelyn's mind reeled. The ground beneath her felt unstable as everything she thought she understood began to unravel. What was this legacy, and why was she standing before a woman who should have never existed? "Evelyn!" Her father's voice rang out, despair rising like the tide. But it was too late. The shadows thickened around her, and the woman's laughter echoed ominously, wrapping around her like a shroud. What had she stepped into? As questions spiraled, a singular thought burned in her mind. Had she truly ever been safe? Evelyn's mind raced as the woman's chilling laughter echoed in the vast, shadowy space. As her heart hammered against her chest, she squeezed her eyes shut, trying to block out the chaos enveloping her. Her thoughts spun wildly. Family legacies, dark secrets, and the overwhelming need to protect Lily. "Stop!" she screamed, voice raw with fear and defiance. "You don't own me! You can't take my daughter!" The woman stepped closer, her visage a mix of twisted affection and wicked glee. "But dear, it's already begun. You were born into this role. You're part of our heritage." Evelyn's breath hitched. The weight of her past felt heavier than ever. "No, you are not my family." She took a step forward, each word laced with fury. "You can't force this on me." "Can't I?" The woman's eyes glittered, reveling in Evelyn's struggle. Your blood ties us irrevocably. Your resistance is futile. Sweat trickled down Evelyn's spine as she glanced over her shoulder. David, his body slumped, pale and still. Sarah was trying to staunch the bleeding. Panic etched deep into her brow. The sight ignited a fire inside her. I will protect my daughter. I won't let you manipulate us. Lily! She cried out, voice cracking. The thought of Arthur's grip on her daughter paralyzed her with fear. But the resolve surged back. She couldn't allow abuse to reign. Not now. As if sensing her strength, the woman lunged forward. Time distorted, each second stretching into eternity. Evelyn took a deep breath, feeling the heat of anger coiling within her. This is where it ends. In one swift motion, she propelled herself against the woman, knocking her off balance. The shadowy figure tumbled backward, crashing into a wall of darkness. The energy in the room shifted. The shadows, briefly. Trembling with rage. No! A voice shrieked. Evelyn seized the moment, racing towards David and Sarah. We have to get out of here! But just as she reached them, Arthur burst through the hidden doorway, eyes wild, slipping through the chaos like a ghost. You can't escape! It's all a trick! His voice thundered, but confusion clouded his footing. For a flash he seemed lost, like a man in a storm. Run! Sarah urged, pulling David up. We can still save him. David groaned, fighting against the pain, but determination ignited in his eyes. Evelyn, we need to finish this. No, she shouted. We're leaving. But the moment hung heavy with unanswered questions. With a shared glance, they felt the unspoken bond of family, all intertwined in struggle, but seeking freedom. It was their only chance. Then a flicker of light surged. The darkness shredded, revealing a pathway, away from the haunted figures behind them. Evelyn grabbed Lily's hand and sprinted, heart racing. Run! Now! They stumbled through the hidden doorway, bursting into a blinding light that felt like salvation. The moment they stepped through, the dark shadows receded, slithering back, their menacing whispers fading. Outside, the air was crisp, freedom a tangible sensation. Evelyn turned to the others, tears streaming down her cheeks. Is it over? David nodded, though uncertainty twinged at his expression. For now, but we must remain vigilant. They'll never fully let go. Together, Sarah added, squeezing David's hand. As family, Evelyn's heart swelled with a flicker of hope. They had survived the onslaught of darkness, united against the shadows of their past. We'll rebuild, for Lily, for ourselves. As they forged ahead, Evelyn glanced back at the looming darkness, her heart resolute. No more secrets, no more chains. She would fight for her family, for new beginnings, but she would also gather the strength to battle the remnants of their legacy. It was her choice now, a choice to break the cycle. The past might have haunted her, but the future belonged to her. The power to shape it, to protect her daughter with every breath in her body. And so they walked forward, hand in hand, renewed by the shared light of their truth. Now, before we wrap up, listen closely. You have to subscribe right now to the channel so you don't miss any of the next exclusive stories that are coming your way. Smash that like button right now because your support feeds the algorithm and keeps our community thriving. Flood the comments section with your thoughts and theories about this epic ending. What do you think happened next? I want to hear all of it. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see how this story ends. Together, we can make this community stronger. Your engagement matters. Let's do it.